Ladies and gentlemen, we will now commence this session titled Revisiting the Iqbal Dante Question. In 2013, under the title Diwan-e-Mir, Farsi Ma Urdu Tarjuma. The session is now yours, sir.
So, our topic for this session is revisiting Dante-Iqbal question. That is the extent of influence of Dante's Divine Comedy on Iqbal's magnus opus Javed Nama. And we are fortunate to have panelists who are very competent to say something about this topic. We have with us Mr. Andrea Bernini. Andrea Bernini is an Italian author published in Italy and abroad. He is also the founder and CEO of the Metropoli Dacia, a publishing house focused on Asian contemporary literature and fiction. MDA translates into Italian and publishes authors from South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Far East. Mr. Bernini has spent a major part of his time in these countries since 2007, directly scouting and discovering new, younger talents. His new book on Asian writing is under publication in Italy. And just a few days ago, the Consulate of Italy in Karachi has instituted an award by Metropoli Dacia for publishing a novel of an emerging Pakistani writer. And Mr. Bernini will be in charge for publishing that novel. And the other panelist is no other than Dr. Nomanul Haq. And he is a long credential, and I will read it out, all of them. Dr. Syed Nomanul Haq is a historian noted especially for his contribution to the field of Islamic history, Islamic philosophy, and literature in Muslim societies. General editor of OUP's Studies in Islamic Philosophy series. He is a professor of social sciences and liberal arts at Karachi's Institute of Business Administration, commonly known as IBA, and serves as advisor of the program. Having previously taught at the University of Pennsylvania, he continues to hold a formal faculty status there, also holding a senior visiting professor rank at the Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization in Malaysia. He was educated at University College London as well as at Harvard, where he has won a postdoctoral fellowship before taking up a professional appointment at Brown University, a former senior faculty member of the Lahore University of Management Sciences. He has been published widely by some of the world's most prestigious publishers and also by ISI indexed research journals. A contributor to the New Cambridge History of Islam, a 6-volume work that was awarded the prestigious Waldo Leland Prize of the American Historical Association. He chairs the recently formed editorial advisory board of the OUP Urdu English Dictionary. So before we start our discussion, I would request Mr. Bernini to read out a canto from the Divine Comedy in Italian.
Well, I prefer to say something than to,
Okay,
than
that's
to
fine.
read,
That's fine.
from.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry. The Divine Comedy, Dante Divine Comedy, is the origin of our language, and a big part of the origin of our culture. Dante and Dante's literary circle in the middle of Italy in the 1300 was the first to utilize a new language to write an important poem, which is both an adventure, a human adventure, and a philosophical essay, and a continuum of different stories on different characters from the mythology and from the history of the time. Up to that time, Latin was the language utilized in what was becoming, in what had to become Italy, because at that time the peninsula was divided in many different states and kingdoms and parts. Latin was the language which was supposed to be used to talk of important issues. They decided to shift to volgare, lingua volgare. What was lingua volgare? Lingua volgare was in fact the local dialect in Florence and around. In 2000 years, Italy developed from Latin different local dialects, which are so different each one that if a person from North Italy goes to the south of Italy right now and listen to a person speaking from Sicily, from his local dialect, is not able to understand. And the lingua volgare was in fact the dialect of Tuscany, which became the contemporary Italian, which was chosen later to be Italian. It's an adventure. A man, Dante himself, in the middle of his life, in the moment where everybody thinks to life and to what will be after life, what will happen after your life, start thinking and rethinking. The poem opens with a metaphor, and Dante was the first to vastly utilize metaphoric metaphors. Dante is in a forest, in a dark forest, has no guide. We'll find later a guide in a poet, in a dead poet, Latin poet, who will lead him through the three different parts of the world after the real world, which is the hell, the purgatory, and the heaven in his tradition. Here, in different circles, he will meet different characters being punished in the heaven or being awarded the heaven because of some reason. And with all of them, he has a story being told, and this is the occasion to think about ethic, about values, about philosophy. Many are the influences in which Dante is rooted, both ancient Latin and Greek culture and mythology, and Christian religion, and as far as I remember, because I have to say I'm not an expert in Dante, I am a publisher of contemporary literature.
But you know more about Dante's than we know, being an Italian. So we want to hear from you about Dante and how he is appreciated in Italy.
Well, we all studied Dante. We all remember our exam with teachers in front of us asking us different questions, because the Divine Comedy covers all aspects of philosophy, of the human thoughts, and Italian history, and all the history and the mythology that we studied in school for years and years. And then you tend to forget it. You tend to think, okay, it's the old Italian literature we passed by. It was far before the novel, the European novel as it is known now was born. It was a poem. But year after year, there are occasions in which someone goes back to Dante. Just to give you an example, in recent year, a very famous actor in Italy, Roberto Benigni, who was supposed to be a comic, a person being on the stage to try people laugh about his jokes and so on, decided to read the whole Divine Comedy. He has done it with a tour around Italy in theaters and TV. Italian television decided to reissue this tour, and it was one of the major television success in the last few years. And it is really astonishing to see how in a country as it is Italy, which is so focused just on now, what's happening now, people seems to have lost memories of the past. It is astonishing to see how people will have followed this kind of tour and this kind of reading.
So we must hear some canto, if you read out in Italian. So just have a feeling how it sounds, and then its translation.
There is no text available. There is no text available.
Okay, then we missed this opportunity. So we are going to compare. It's not compare the two great literary works, Dante's Divine Comedy, which, according to Jorge Luis Borges, is the greatest achievement of human being in literature, and Javednama of Allama Iqbal, which is the summing up and culmination of Iqbal's thought. It came in the later period of his age. He has already written the books and Asar-e-Khudi, Ramuz-e-Khudi. So everything is summed up in Javednama, which comprises of about 4,000 verses. And now I request Dr. Noman to please say how much influence was there on Iqbal from Dante.
Well, thank you very much for your patience. Unfortunately, we don't have the text of Dante available. The initial plan was that Mr. Barini will read the Italian extractions from the text, and my dear friend Siptan Naqvi was going to read the English translations. Unfortunately, Andrea Barini did not have a hard copy, and he's unable to connect to the internet, so we have to sacrifice that. Let me, what a pity this is. I was very much looking forward to hearing it in Italian, but maybe in a private situation, I'll request him to do that. I was very much looking forward to that. Anyway, let me give you a background of this panel. I was contacted by OUP, and they asked me to speak on Dante's influence on Iqbal. I had some reservations about this presumption that, this is in itself a question that has to be raised, so I suggested that we call it revisiting Iqbal Dante question. It is a question. And I'll tell you why, and the conclusion I have is a happy conclusion. It is not a conclusion of separation, it's a conclusion of coming together. It is not, as Rumi would say, it is not fasl, but it is wasl. Tu baraye wasl kardan amadi, nay baraye fasl kardan amadi. I'm not creating distances, I am creating togetherness. Now let me, in the very beginning, say something that will surprise perhaps most of you, at least some of you. And but before I do that, let me make an observation. The first thing, I've already told you that the conclusion is a happy one. But my observation is this, and I always, take philosophical mileage out of what I say. I am like this. The issue here is that this particular community, the post-colonial community, has suffered a rupture from the past. So you have been cut off from your own legacy. You don't read Arabic, you don't read Persian, you don't read practically any, I'm talking about the young people, they hardly read Urdu. And I have noticed that there are all kinds of mistakes in Urdu, there are fewer mistakes in English. So there's a rupture. And as a result, the narrative that we have of our own legacy, of this legacy, is a constructed one. This is a constructed narrative, and so we learn about ourselves through other narratives, and we have no ability to challenge that narrative. Now here there's a double coercion, Foucault kind of double coercion, that those who know more about me than myself, they control me. And since they know more about me, so I conform to that. So there's a self-coercion in this manufactured reality. I want to make this observation. Now, the thing that I think that will surprise you is this, that it is highly unlikely that despite parallels and similarities, it is highly unlikely that Iqbal borrowed from Dante. Recent scholarship, and people are not familiar with that, starting from Miguel Palacios in the 1920s. Iqbal knew about it. Two Dante studies, there's a journal based in the US called Dante Studies. And there is a very good Italian scholar, her name is Maria Conti. And Maria Conti has pointed out very clearly that Dante was actually drawing upon some other tradition, and therefore it is certainly possible that both Iqbal and Dante was drawing upon. They were writing under the shadows of the Arabo-Islamic tradition, particularly the tradition of Sufism, and that's why there is this similarity. There are people such as Bruegel, a very good scholar, people such as Gregory Stone, and I'm naming these names in order to point out that it is not Nomanul Haq speaking, but it is the world of scholarship speaking, with solid historical and conceptual evidence. So I repeat that it seems the fussle, the bustle, the coming together of the Italian history and Islamic history, which is very happy, which makes us more or less a single community where there is no discontinuity between traditions. And I really don't think that Islamic history is Eastern history. It is very much part of Western history. So Italians are connected to the Islamic legacy. So I repeat that both are drawing upon, both are benefiting from, both are writing under the shadows of the same sources, so they have common sources. And what are those sources? I'll say briefly about that in both cases. Just now you heard Andrea, there are three sections. The number 3 is important, as the number 9 is important in Dante. The Inferno, hell, that is, and Purgatory and Paradiso. Now, first of all, let me tell you that the scholar, the Italian scholar Maria Conti, I spoke about her. She has identified a text of the Kitab al-Mi'raj, the book of Ascension, or the book of Heavenly Journey, which was available in Latin, in Spanish, and in Old French. And this book, Heavenly Journey, was known, very much known. And she has identified Brunetto Latini, who was the Italian ambassador in Spain in 1260. And she identifies him as the linkage between the Kitab al-Mi'raj, which is, as you know, I'll say a little bit more about the Kitab al-Mi'raj, but most of you know about it. So that is one thing to understand. The other thing is that there is in the story the eighth circle of paradise, and from the 8th circle of paradise, the journey continues to 7 earths of hell, 8 and 7, and it is the same thing as in the Kitab al-Mi'raj. There is this 8th circle, and then there are 7 stages of hell, and then there is a mandate given in the Kitab al-Mi'raj to the Prophet, upon whom be peace, and there's a mandate also spoken about in the Divine Comedy. Actually, it is Commedia. The adjective divine was added later. So in the Commedia, there is also a mandate for the poet to go to the lowest stages of hell and tell people how they can avoid eternal damnation. Third, there is the narrative in the first person. It is in the first person in the Kitab al-Mi'raj, and there is first person also in the Commedia. Then there is a guide. In the case of the Kitab al-Mi'raj, you have Gabriel, Ruhul Qudus, not Ruhul Quds. Many people say Ruhul Quds. पढ़े लिखे लोग भी Ruhul Quds कहते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है, Ruhul Qudus है. Qudus लफ्ज़ है, Ruhul Qudus. अनासिर उसके हैं Ruhul Qudus का हुस्न जमाल, अजम का हुस्न तबीयत, अरब का सोज़े दुरूं. This is Iqbal, the national poet. We should know Iqbal. So there is a guide, and Jibreel is the guide here. Virgil is the guide, as Andrea told us. And also there is a beloved who is also a guide. The beloved of Dante in the case of the Commedia, and it's very much in the courtly love tradition. And the courtly love tradition also is known to have come from the Arabic tradition. The lower world is characterized by seas. It is characterized by liquids. It is characterized by pools. It is characterized by smells. It is characterized by ice and animals. It is the same thing in both cases. That is one source. The other source is the Islamic philosophical and literary tradition from which Dante seems to have derived quite generously. Gregory Stone, he's a scholar in America, he says that Dante wrote Convivo, a philosophical work which he never completed, and since this was a philosophical text, he wanted to write a prophetic text. So he left it incomplete and did the Commedia, and he is very much influenced by Ibn Rushd. And we know that in Europe, Ibn Rushd was very important, and Thomas Aquinas is deeply drenched in Averroes. There is a group called Paris Averroists, And in fact, there is closeness between Dante and Aquinas. In fact, they say that the Commedia is actually a Summa in Italian, Summa of Aquinas. Then I come to Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi has a book called Kitab al-Isra, the book of nocturnal journey. He has another one called Risalatul Anwar, the book of lights. And of course, he has Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah, not Futuhat al-Makkiyah, but Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah, the Meccan revelations. And Ibn Rushd moves back and forth, around the dehliz, the door-still threshold where two worlds touch. This is Rumi describing Ibn Arabi, meaning that the world beneath, the world unknown, the world which is a massive mystery, and this world. And you see, there is something very interesting. Ibn Arabi had a revelation, a kind of an epiphany in the year 1200 to leave. He should go on a journey, and then he goes to Mecca. This is exactly replicated in the Divine Comedy. The Friday, the night before Good Friday, the year 1300, where he goes out. Exactly, there is such an interesting parallel there from Ibn Arabi, and Ibn Arabi is known in the Latin tradition. Then we have the case of Abul Ala Ma'arri. Abul Ala Ma'arri, who died in 1057, he talks about a heavenly journey. And of course, we have Ibn Tufail. Again, Ibn Tufail is known in the Latin tradition, and Bruegel, the scholar Bruegel, he considers the description of the paradise literally reflecting Bruegel. Now, all of this goes to indicate that there are common sources, and this also goes to indicate that there is a continuity, a very happy continuity. I feel terribly happy that the Italian tradition, the greatest writer of Italian, is connected to the tradition to which my ancestors belonged. And this is a very happy thing. It is, again, a case of wasl, not of fasl. Now, coming to my beloved, coming to my murshid, coming to my poet, coming to my Iqbal, let me point out a few things about Iqbal. Iqbal, I told you that in the description of the lower world, there are liquid seas and liquids and pools and smells, and then there is ice. Now, Iqbal has a description of hell. Other than Javeed Nama, in Urdu. I'm just pointing out to you that there are various places in which we see reflections of this tradition. Ice. There he goes to the heavens. This is not in Javeed Nama. This is actually in Bale Jibril or perhaps Zarbe Kalim. One of the two, definitely one of the two. Perhaps in Bale Jibril. He goes up to inspect hell, and he's taken by an angel, and there he finds hell to be cold, freezing, and he says, "What is the matter? I heard that there'll be fires here, Jahannam and the Nar, and what is this? It is all very cold." So the angel says, actually, when people come here from the world, they bring their own fire. They bring their beautiful. And let me read the verse. Ahle dunya yahan jo aate hain, apne angar saath late hain. Ahle dunya yahan jo aate hain, apne angar saath late hain. Why is it? Now, Ibn Arabi is also at another place in Zarbe Kalim. There is a dialogue between God and Iblis. And again, then the character of Iblis is very important for Iqbal, which means that he's not drawing from the Dante tradition, but from the Sufi tradition. There is a dialogue between God and Iblis, and Iblis says to God that, I did not prostrate myself before Adam because you did not will it. Because if you will something, it will happen. Whatever you will happens. You are omnipotent. So he did not will it. I was framed. God asks him, when did you find out that you were framed? Before refusing or after refusing? Now, Iblis is always truthful. He says, my Lord, after refusing, he says, there you are. This is the question of free will and destination. The time of the action, we are free. If I want to jump out of this state, I can. With hindsight, maybe I can say that it was predestined. But right now, I have the ability to do that. So this is again Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi. Ay Khudaye kun fakan, mujhko na tha Adam se bair. Ay Khudaye kun fakan, mujhko na tha Adam se bair. Ah wo zindaniye nazdeek ko duro dero zud. Beautiful way of saying time and space. Nazdeek ko duro dero zud. Here and there and now and then. Beautiful way, poetic way of saying space and time. Ah wo zindaniye nazdeek ko duro dero zud. Harfe istiqbar tere samne mumkin na tha. हरफ इस्तिकबार तेरे सामने मुमकिन न था, हाँ मगर तेरी मशीयत में न था मेरा सुजूद. हाँ मगर तेरी मशीयत में न था मेरा सुजूद. तो सवाल हुआ कि कब खुला तुझ पे ये राज, इनकार से पहले के बाद. कब खुला तुझ पे ये राज, इनकार से पहले के बाद. तो जवाब आया बाद तेरी तजल्ली से कमालाते वजूद. तो फिर कहा गया कि बस ये फितरत ने सिखलाई है ये हुज्जत इसे. बस ये फितरत ने सिखलाई है ये हुज्जत इसे. कहता है तेरी मशीयत में न था मेरा सुजूद. दे रहा है अपनी आज़ादी को मजबूरी का नाम. जालिम अपने शोले सोज़ा को खुद कहता है दूध. Absolutely, or the word zalim is so appropriate. Zalim, zulm का मतलब है to misplace something is zulm. Zulm is not necessarily cruelty. It is misplacing something. The zalim अपने शोले सोज़ा को खुद कहता. So this is Ibn Arabi glowing not only in in Javeed Nama but throughout. I'm just trying to show to you that now the famous verse, and I'm going to finish in a few minutes. The famous verse है जुर्म ज़ईफ़ी की सज़ा मर के मफ़ाजात. आप लोग पढ़ते हैं है जुर्म ज़ईफ़ी की सज़ा मर के मफ़ाजात है ना. इक़बाल तकदीर के काजी का ये फतवा है अज़ल से है जुर्म ज़ईफ़ी की सज़ा मर के मफ़ाजात. This is from a poem which is about Abul Ala Marri. I spoke about Marri and Marri Risalatul Ghufran, and Iqbal is writing about Marri. कहते हैं कभी गोश्त न खाता था मार्री, फल फूल पे करता था हमेशा गुज़र औक़ात. इसमें तकदीर के काजी का ये फतवा है अज़ल से है जुर्म ज़ईफ़ी की सज़ा मर के मफ़ाजात. So he is in touch also with Marri, not only in Javeed Nama but all over the place. Now these are the things. Now remember that Iqbal is totally and utterly and completely drenched, fully drenched into the Islamic tradition completely. And yes, there are similarities, but this is a commonality of the sources, not direct borrowing. They are both. And I can give a whole month of lectures on Ibn Arabi's heavenly journeys, and it is all over the place. The Arabic literature is enormous. We don't read it. We don't want to read it. We get our narratives from somewhere else. There is an enormous body of literature. और अरबी को तो खास तौर से अंडरमाइन किया जाता है ना. You undermine अरबी. अभी कल किसी ने कहा कि हाँ अरबी से तो हमने कुछ सीखा ही नहीं, हमने तो फारसी से सीखा. This is such a what is the word, propaganda. Nothing else. Arabi se to bahut sikha hai. Now remember that there is Hallaj in Javeed Nama. Hallaj is in the Javeed Nama, and with Hallaj there is Iblis in Javeed Nama, and Iblis is presented in a very positive light, very very positive light. It's amazing how he has painted Iblis in Javeed Nama. And of course there is Tasin. I recently published a tiny part of my translation of Kitab Tawasin. I hope you do read Don's books and authors, where I write here and there. I did, I readjusted the Arabic text of the Kitab Tawasin, and then I translated it into Urdu and then into English for Don, which was published not very long ago. Now, the book is called Kitab Tawasin. Tawasin is the plural of what? Tahsin, 2 letters of the Arabic alphabet, and these are called al-huruf al-muqatta'at, the separated letters. Just alif, lam, mim, yasin. These are the letters which are supposed to be mysterious, and Sufis have written a lot about it. Wahi yasin, wahi taha, and so on. So this Tawasin pluralizes it. So Tasin meaning double mysteries, the book of double mysteries. Tawasin, Kitab Tawasin. This is Hallaj. And Iqbal has completely copied that. So as many of you know, there is Tasin of Gautam, there is Tasin of Fulan, there is Tasin of in the Javid Nama. And then, of course, I two more things. One is that the astronomical order is very Ptolemaic. It's very Ptolemaic in the case of Iqbal. It is very Christian in the case of Dante. The whole scheme is medieval Christian worldview there and not here. Now, before I end, let me read a couple of lines from Javid Nama. One is from Hallaj. Hallaj speaks. What happens is that in the heaven of Jupiter, Jupiter. In the heaven of Jupiter, all of a sudden there's darkness. There's darkness, and Rumi is leading Iqbal. Iqbal calls himself Zindarud, the living stream, and Rumi is the guide. And all of a sudden there's darkness, and Zindarud Iqbal wonders what happened. What happened? Kya ho gaya? And then, Rumi says, Guft Rumi khajaye ahle firaq. गुफ्त रूमी ख्वाजे के देखो अहले फ़िराक़ का जो बच्चा है जो सरदार है वो आया है और आपको मालूम you know that he's supposed to be made of fire. So darkness is very appropriate there. He all of a sudden he emerges from within darkness and then he talks. And believe me, it is so full of pathos. It is so full of pathos that it reverses our whole idea of evil and so on. A moment ago somebody, Ziauddin Sardar Sahab was talking to me about this whole problem of evil, the way Sufis have resolved it, the way our poetry has saved us. I think Haris is here. It will ring so loud in Haris. Poetry has saved us. The whole thing about qaza wa qadr, the problem of evil, it is resolved in poetry. It's totally resolved in poetry through Hallaj, but हम उसको पढ़ें तो हमारी रसाई तो हो वहाँ कहाँ रसाई रह गई है. We just balance books. And we are happy with that. Anyway, so in his speech in the heaven of Jupiter, Hallaj is picking up an expression from the Quran, from the book of Night Journey, Surah Isra. Isra, is the ground of the Miraj story, where it is very interesting that the Quran uses the expression abduhu, meaning mera abd. Possessive, not abd, mera abd, Subhanallazi isra bi abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa. So abduhu, this is a great poet, Iqbal. He picks up abduhu, mera banda, possessive, mera bacha, meri mashuqa, meri. She is mine. This kid is mine, and mera abd. So usko phir phailaya hai, abd digar, abduhu cheeze digar. अब्द कुछ और चीज़ है, अब्दुहु कुछ और चीज़ है, बंदा कुछ और है, मेरा बंदा कुछ और है. क्या बात है? I mean, you see how you see the treasure that we have in this poetic tradition. See the treasure we have in this poetry and how deprived we are that we don't know. These kids cannot read it. Abd digar abduhu cheeze digar ma sarapa intizar u muntazar. मैंने बड़े लोगों को पढ़ते देखा है, ma sarapa intizar u muntazir नहीं muntazar. यानी वो he is awaited. Not that he's waiting, he's waited, muntazar. कभी आए हकीकत मुंतज़र नज़र आ लिबास मजाज में. Same thing, अब्द दीगर अब्दुहु चीज़े दिगर मा सरापा इंतज़ार उ मुंतज़र अब्दुहु बा इब्तिदा बे इंतहास्त अब्दुहु रा सुबह शाम मा कुजास्त कस ज़ सिर्रे अब्दुहु आगाह नीस्त अब्दुहु जुस सिर्रे इल्ला लाह नीस्त. Now Iqbal asks him about Iblis. Okay, what do you say about Iblis? He's here with us in the heaven of Jupiter, and Hallaj speaks very, very highly of Iblis, and he says that we are ignorant, and he knows the meaning of being in nothingness. Ma juhul, uarife budo nabud. हम तो जाहिल हैं, जुहूल कहा बल्कि और ज़रूर से ज़्यादा जाहिल हैं. अरबी बहुत खूबसूरत ज़बान है. बदतरीन जो जाहिल है उसको जुहूल कहते हैं. एक जाहिल एक जुहूल है ना, फजूल. जाहिल जुहूल मा जुहूल ओ आरिफ बूदो नबूद कुफ्र ऊ ई राज रा बर मा कुशूद. उसके कुफ्र ने ये राज हम पर खोल दिया, अस्फुदादन गिरने से, अस्फुदादन लज्जत बरखास्तन, ऐशे अफजूदन ज़े दर्द कास्तन. So this is how it goes. Now we have to place in two different spheres, in two different aesthetic spheres, in two different literary spheres, Iqbal and Dante, but ultimately they meet together in the same tradition which continues until this day. So if there is a spirit of Italian culture here, it's very good because the Italian culture continues the same tradition that we hear. So it is a message that we are really bound together in this world. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Noman, for this very erudite talk. And Mr. Berini, would you like to say something, add something to this?
No, well, I apologize for not having the hard copy of my text. I was told a few minutes before that the Wi-Fi was down, they are working on it, and so my text disappeared. You don't know Italian language. You only would have the could have the pleasure or hear the flavor and the music of our language. What I can say is that yes, I was aware of the job of Maria Conti about the roots in your culture, where Divine Comedy was also rooted, and this is something that I really have to thank Professor Nomanul to have explained in such a wonderful way, and this is something that I really would love to be more, to be told and to be expressed even in my country. And who knows, maybe Professor Nomanul will have the occasion in the future to come to my country to have such a lecture to us. Thank you.
So before we take questions, I would just like to mention one verse from Javed Nama out of 4,000 verses, which is very commonly known to almost every Pakistani, and that is Deen Mullah Fi Sabilillah Fasad. So, नहीं बस ठीक हाँ मैंने कहा तो है नहीं इकबाल. So let's take questions. There is one gentleman over there.
I'd like to ask about, could you please Dr. Saab, could you please elaborate a little about the War of the Angels, and also about it is said that the tree of life, where Adam and Eve, the whole saga started, there was another tree which is hidden from us. So if you could just enlighten us.
Well, this is not wrong.
Okay, please.
अब ठीक है मेरे ख्याल में. Can you hear me? Is it? No. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, yes. Well, in Sufi literature, there is a lot about these things, and one of the fundamental differences, and I'm not making a value judgment. I'm not saying which is better and which is worse. Just this is the plurality of ideas. We should cherish both of them. Hai range lalo gulo nasri juda juda. जुदा जुदा, तो मुझे इससे बहस नहीं है कि अच्छा क्या बुरा क्या, लेकिन देर इज़ यू नो an attachment with the idea of the fall, है ना. Christianity is preoccupied with this idea of fall. There's a fall of Adam, and fall is a very creative notion in Christian theology, even in Christian poetry, whether you have, you know, Dante or you have Milton, whoever. This is very central. In Islam, it's something else. In Islam, it's really not, there's no preoccupation with fall. Indeed, it's a joy to be on the earth. And even in the Quran, if we know the Quran and we do not say Arabic has given us nothing, Farsi has given us, I know both Farsi and Arabic. Alhamdulillah, मैं दोनों से वाकिफ़ हूँ. जैसे मैं फ़ारसी पढ़ता हूँ वैसे मैं अरबी भी पढ़ता हूँ. तो ये नहीं कि मैं जाहिल आदमी बात कर आपसे. जाहिल से मुराद ये कि वो नहीं कि जिसने मेहनत नहीं की है, मेरे बाल सफ़ेद होने लगे ना इस वजह से. तो what I'm saying is that in the Quran there's one little line that settles the issue. फ़तलक़्क़ा आदम मिन रब्बिही कलिमातिन फ़ताबा अलैहि, बस इन्नहु हुवा तव्वाबुर रहीम. कि कुछ कलिमात आए आदम के पास और उन्होंने दुआ मांगी, उनको माफ़ कर दिया. अल्लाह बहुत माफ़ करने वाला है. फ़तलक़्क़ा आदम मिन रब्बिही कलिमातिन, कुछ कलिमात उसके पास आए, फ़ताबा अलैहि, उन पर रहम किया, ही फेल्ट मर्सी ऑन हिम, इन्नहु हुवा तव्वाबुर रहीम, वो तौबा का मानने वाला है. इट इज़ ऑल ओवर. There is no such thing. In fact, Sufis have made a whole, they have constructed it very, very beautifully, this separation. Ham chunai as nistane khud hikayat mi kunam. Vishnu egul as judai ha shikayat mi kunam. Judai jo hui na वहाँ से, तो वो जुदाई जो हुई अपने सोर्स से ना, तो वो बहुत बहुत खूबसूरत चीज़ है. तो वो तू शाख से क्यों टूटा, मैं शाख से क्यों फूटा, है ना सवाल. कैसा सवाल, व्हाट अ रिजाउंडिंग क्वेश्चन. एक लज्जत पैदा, एक जज्बे यकताई. तो दिस इज ए टोटली डिफरेंट सिनारियो. अब उसको समझें तो पहले उसके लिए ज़बानें ज़रूरी हैं. इफ़ यू लूज़ योर लैंग्वेजेस, इफ़ यू लूज़ योर टच विथ योर लेगेसी, देन व्हाट इज़ लेफ्ट? बुक कीपिंग, right? Bookkeeping. I mean, I am ashamed that, you know, a Nobel laureate, Naipaul, would say that these Muslims, they are forever doomed to use the phone, but never to invent it. What a shame. And I find it very offensive, but these are the comments. So you have to recover. I mean, iska koi fayda nahi hoga, KLF or ye wo, till you go back and recover this legacy.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum, sir. I completely agree with what you said about us not knowing our languages and being, set back because of that. I have a question. It's not related to the topic. I'm quite interested in Iqbal and his works, and especially the Javed Nama. I've been wanting to read it. Unfortunately, I am not aware. I don't know Persian at all. No Farsi. मतलब फारसी नहीं आती. तो कोई तरीका, मतलब कराची में जैसे रहते हुए, if you have any. Because I've searched up for institutes to teach me Arabic, to teach me Farsi, but unfortunately बिल्कुल कोई ऐसी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ या कॉलेजेस या कोई opportunities नहीं मिली हैं. कुरानी अरबिक है, माशाल्लाह से बहुत अच्छी अरबिक है. इंस्टीट्यूट्स हैं, अल हुदा है और दूसरे इंस्टीट्यूट्स हैं. लेकिन बिल्कुल अच्छी बात है कि कुरानी अरबिक सिखाते हैं. लेकिन जो एक जो ज़बान की जो लज़्ज़त होती है, जो ज़बान की खूबसूरती होती है, उस तरीके से अगर अरबिक या फ़ारसी सीखनी है तो उसका क्या तरीक़ाकार हो सकता है? Thank you.
I share this pain with you that we have very very few opportunities to study Persian and Urdu. There is one thing. Let me say this. Let me dare and say this, that we have to de-link it with religiosity. Unless we de-link it, we will not do anything. So, somebody like me knowing Farsi and Arabic is a surprise for people. मुझसे the dean of the business school, वो जो थे, उनका नाम भूल रहा हूँ, who became the dean at KSBL, Karachi School of Business and Leadership. तो वो मुझसे एक दिन कहने लगे कि डॉक्टर साहब सुना है आपको अरबी आती है, आप तो बहुत लिबरल लगते हैं. And आपको, बल्कि उन्होंने अरबी, मैं तो अरबी नहीं कह सकता, मैं तो अरबी कहूँगा, कोई रे के ऊपर ज़बर है तो मैं तो अरबी नहीं कह सकता, मैं अरबी कहूँगा। जैसे मैं सराब ज़दगां नहीं कह सकता, मैं सराब ज़दगां, क्योंकि मैंने गालिब को पढ़ा है। क्या तंग हम सितम ज़दगां का जहान है, जिसमें कि एक बेज़ाए मोर आसमां। ज़दगां जब गालिब को पढ़ लिया तो ज़दगां नहीं कह सकते हैं ना, उसके बाद हारिस, उसके बाद ज़दगां नहीं कह सकते गालिब, क्योंकि मिसरा बहर से निकल जाएगा। तो यू सी इट हैज़ टू बी डीलिंक्ड, एंड दिस डीलिंकिंग इज पीपल लाइक मी जिनके बारे में ताजुब होगा, अच्छा ये तो कुरानी आयत भी पढ़ लेते हैं, then you will be attracted. And I know that Arabic is a joke in Pakistan. It is a complete joke. Farsi is a complete joke in Pakistan. Ghanimat hai, you know, people sitting, this gentleman sitting next to me who's done great work in Farsi. Farsi जानने वाले अब हैं कहाँ? And this is where you need to pay attention. And I've been struggling for this all over my life. I mean, all through my life. And there are my students. And there's a big body of students now who know languages. From top institutions such as Islams. यहाँ भी कुछ बैठे हैं. यहाँ भी कुछ बच्चे बैठे हुए हैं who have studied Farsi, who are doing Arabic. One of my students is in Chicago who is studying Arabic and Sanskrit and so on. Bilal Tanveer, the writer, he was my student at Lums. He studied Farsi at Chicago. तो लोग पैदा हो रहे हैं, है मसला. But you know, you are going through a very difficult period of history, and you must feel that pain. You must feel that. If अगर आप सोते रहेंगे रात भर पार्टी होगी, सुबह सो जाएंगे तो काम नहीं होगा. The urgency should be felt by you, and unless you feel the urgency, nothing will happen. So you have a heavier burden on your shoulders than perhaps I had when I was your age.
Thank you, sir, for a very enlightening talk. मेरा आपसे क्वेश्चन ये है कि जिस तरह अल्लामा इकबाल ने उलूम में मशरिक़ और मगरिब से खोशाचीनी की है, तो हम किसी कदर एहतियात से फिर भी ये कह सकते हैं कि दांते की तरह सुपर ह्यूमन बीइंग को प्रेजेंट करने का तसव्वुर अल्लामा इकबाल ने शायद दांते से ही लिया था, लेकिन उन्होंने जिस तरह मर्द मोमिन के कॉन्सेप्ट को पेश किया है, वो कॉन्सेप्ट उनका एग्जैक्टली सुपर ह्यूमन बीइंग ड्राइव फ्रॉम दांते नहीं था, बल्कि उन्होंने, जैसे कि उनकी शायरी में मिलता है कि हैदरी, कर्रारी, सिद्दीकी, फ़ुक्र अबूज़र, वो कहते हैं कि दिल बेदार पैदा करके दिल ख्वाबिदा है जब तक ना तेरी ज़रब है कारी ना मेरी ज़रब है कारी, और दिल बेदार फ़ारूकी, दिल बेदार कर्रारी. उसके बाद उस मर्द मोमिन को उन्होंने उर्दू शायरी जो मैंने थोड़ी बहुत पढ़ी है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि उन्होंने कहा है कि क़हारी हो, गफ़्फ़ारी हो, क़ुद्दूसी हो, जबरूत, ये चार अनासिर हों तो बनता है मुसलमान. ये राज किसी को नहीं
मुसलमान, नून ऐलान कीजिए, मुसलमान.
और ये राज किसी को नहीं मालूम कि मोमिन कारी नज़र आता है
हकीकत में कुरान.
तो
उसको ठीक पढ़ें. This is not उर्दू शायरी, is no joke. You cannot misread it before me. कुरान कहें, कुरान कहेंगे बहर से निकल जाएगा. हर लहजा है मोमिन की नई आन, नई शान, गुफ्तार में किरदार में अल्लाह की बुरहान. नून अदा कीजिए जी.
थैंक यू सो मच फॉर.
ओके, देखिए, यस
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि क्या हम कह सकते हैं फिर भी कि अल्लामा इकबाल ने दांते से कॉन्सेप्ट लिया है, लेकिन ड्राइव उन्होंने यहाँ से किया. सेकंड थिंग इज़ दैट कि जब हम उर्दू को सही तरीके से नहीं बोल पाते, तो क्या सिर्फ पढ़ना और समझना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, या एग्जैक्ट प्रोनाउंसिएशन के साथ इस वक्त बोलना बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी हो जाता है, जबकि हमें उर्दू भी नहीं आती है सही तरीके से, उसको समझना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी नहीं है?
अच्छा, देखिए, यू नो, जहाँ तक ताल्लुक़ इकबाल और डांटे का है, तो वो पूरा लेक्चर मैंने दे दिया 25-30 मिनट. तो अब आप मुझसे फिर वही सवाल कर रही हैं कि क्या ताल्लुक़ है. अभी भी वही तो मैं बकवास करता रहा हूँ पिछले 30 मिनट से. तो उस पर दोबारा सुन लीजिएगा, उसकी तो रिकॉर्डिंग मौजूद है. वो तो उसकी तो yes, I have, this is precisely what I have been talking about कि क्या ताल्लुक़ है. तो उसको दोबारा सुन लीजिएगा. अच्छा, जहाँ तक ताल्लुक़ उर्दू समझ, देखें ये चीज़ें अलग अलग नहीं होती हैं, बोलना और सुना सब एक साथ होता है. जब हम सिखाते हैं ज़बानें तो उसमें लैंग्वेज लैब भी तो होती है ना, तो वो भी होती है, ग्रामर भी होती है. हमने अरबी सीखी थी तो हमने ताहा हुसैन को भी पढ़ा था, और मैंने कलीला व दिमना को भी पढ़ा था, और मैंने कुरान शरीफ को भी पढ़ा था. और मैंने यहाँ नहीं पढ़ा, यहाँ होता तो शायद नहीं पढ़ता. मैं खुदा का शुक्र मैं चला गया था पाकिस्तान से, तो आई वॉज एबल टू स्टडी दीज थिंग्स, अदरवाइज आई वुड हैव बीन वन ऑफ द. नो फर्दर.
हम लोग पाकिस्तान में ही पढ़ रहे हैं ना, तो हमारे पास लिमिटेशंस हैं.
Let's take another question here.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम. A little
बीबी, बेटा आप खड़े हो जाइए.
जी सर.
जी.
A little of the context, वो आप इब्ने अरबी की बातें कर रहे थे किताबुन इसरा के. So I just wanted to confirm, I have been looking for his books for a few years now, and I found 2 volumes of Makkan Revelations.
Yep.
but the concise version. So do you know where we could get these books, and if the night journey is actually mentioned in the unabridged versions of Meccan Revelations?
I think that there is a mention of heavenly journey definitely in Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah, and it's a two-way journey, and it's very interesting. I mean, poetically interesting because he says that you cannot go to the beloved till the beloved wants you to come. जब तक महबूब नहीं चाहेगा आओ तो तुम नहीं आ सकते. So it's not a one-way traffic. There has to be a will on the part of God. There's an active participation in my action of the beloved to call me, and then I will go. So yeah. Now, as for Kitabul Isra and Kitabul Anwar, yes, there are translations, and it's very easy these days. There are people. In fact, there is an Ibn Arabi society in America, and they're doing some. I mean, यहाँ तो कोई काम नहीं होता. यहाँ तो we do bookkeeping. वहाँ काम होता है. So there are good scholars who are working on Ibn Arabi, and Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah is available in full translation in Urdu and also in English. And if you look for it, you will get it. And I'll help you. You can come and see me, and we can do the search together.
I think we don't have time to take further questions. Okay.
Can you give this gentleman the microphone? And I have taken the liberty of. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Sir, your keen and depth analysis and views of Iqbal poetry. My question is concerning that you mentioned in your speak that the possessive attitude of Iqbal, mera khuda, mera mabud, mera banda, you emphasizes that. Do you think that the shikwa and jawab-e-shikwa, which to be blamed by the जैसे मुल्लाओं ने इल्ज़ाम लगाया कि जी ये वो था, तो do you think that the jawab-e-shikwa and shikwa is to create it in this prospectus with the passive attitude? मेरा खुदा, जब मेरा खुदा है तो मैं उससे कुछ भी बोल सकता हूँ, ठीक है, उसके आगे रो सकता हूँ. उससे जब एक एस्टेब्लिश हो जाता है ना रूहानी राब्ता, जो आदमी किसी के सामने नहीं बोलता, अपने आप से भी छुपाना चाहता है या अपने किसी से भी, लेकिन खुदा के आगे छुपता है. You think that the creation of the shikwa and jawab-e-shikwa in this prospectus? Thank you very much.
Well, we don't have time. आप लोग मुझसे ऐसे सवालात कर रहे हैं जिस पे मुझे बहुत बात करने को जी चाहता है, लेकिन वक्त ख़त्म हो रहा है, मुझे यहाँ से फारिग होना है. देखिए, एक बात तो ये ख्याल रहे, प्लीज़ अंडरस्टैंड कि शिकवा जवाब शिकवा का जो मसला है मुल्लाओं ने ये किया, दिस इज़ ऑल नॉनसेंस. देयर इज़ नो एविडेंस, एंड आई एम नॉट द ओनली वन टू से दिस. द ग्रेटेस्ट क्रिटिक ऑफ आवर टाइम्स, शम्सुर रहमान फारूकी, विल टेल यू दैट देयर इज़ नो एविडेंस कि आई थिंक उन्होंने पहले ही से मंसूबा बनाया था कि जैसे शिकवा लिखेंगे और जवाब शिकवा लिखेंगे. ये नहीं हुआ कि लोगों ने हंगामा किया दोनों जवाब में. उन्होंने उससे ज़्यादा सख्त बातें की हैं, उससे ज़्यादा तकलीफ़देह बातें की, कुछ भी नहीं हुआ है उसमें. तो ऐसी कोई बात ही नहीं, उसमें बहुत उबूदियत है. अच्छा, जहाँ तक ताल्लुक़ है मेरा बंदा और ये वो, एक्चुअली वो तो बहुत ही मोहब्बत के साथ है ना, एक ताल्लुक़, ज़ाती सा एक ताल्लुक़ है. और ये जो है जावेद नामा, ये भी मुनाजात से शुरू होता है. मुनाजात का मतलब है इंटीमेट कॉन्वर्सेशन, उसका मतलब मुनाजात, चुपके चुपके जो बात होती है उसको हम मुनाजात कहते हैं. तो शुरू हुआ है मुनाजात. आदमी अंदर जहाँ ने हफ्त रंग हर जमा घर में फ़ुक़ा मानिंद चंग, मुनाजात से शुरू किया. यानी सरगोशियाँ है ना, खामोश बातें. तो यूँ है. इसके अलावा वक्त अब नहीं. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपके सवाल का.
Thank you very much.